It's time for West Virginia University to realize who they are as a program. Welcome in or welcome back. I'm going to be honest with you up front. This is not usually my content. I don't ever really touch on college hoops only because there is so much professional basketball to get to, and I specifically don't touch on anything that is college football related, but it's pertinent in this case. If you are not a WVU fan or you don't fall into this sort of category, it doesn't bother me at all that you don't want to finish this video, but if you could, do me a favor and send this to someone who is a fan of West Virginia University or a fan of a program who may not be having the success that they want them to. In case you missed it somehow, former WVU head coach Rich Rodriguez has rejoined the program after a 17-year hiatus. Now, my personal bias aside, I do not think it was a very inspiring move. Not all of the news is bad news, however. Pat White seemingly wants to join the coaching staff, and with Pat White being my favorite WVU football player of all time, I'm definitely on board with that. Now, it's been a really long time since Rich Rodriguez left WVU the first time, and when that happened, I was in middle school. I'm almost 30 now, so I've had a lot of time to grow and forgive, and I definitely don't think that people aren't deserving of second chances, and I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. However, I'm concerned about his coaching ability. In his first meeting with the team, he started talking about how he always wants to be a better coach, how he thinks he's a better coach than yesterday, how he's a better coach than a year before, and how he was a better coach than 17 years ago. And while I do think that that is potentially true, I just don't see the numbers. Because once he left WVU, he got absolutely ran out of town in Michigan. He was mediocre at best during his time at Arizona, and while he did find very sustained success in Jacksonville State, he was playing in a Group of 5 conference, and that is definitely not the same thing as the Big 12. In my estimation, as just a fan, as someone who loves this university more than anything, there were 2 avenues that we could have taken, and the first one was a huge swing. College football is a beast, and while there is this perceived parity among all of the teams with this college football playoff, it's usually the same 20 teams that always make the headlines. Texas, Alabama, Georgia, all of the names that you would regularly expect. Not so much WVU. And I think if we wanted to interject ourselves into that conversation, we needed to make a bigger swing as far as the head coach was concerned. Do you know that there's not a rule in place that says that there is a max contract, that there's a dollar amount that we can't exceed to offer a coach a contract? So if that is true, after all this time being in the Big 12 and actually getting wrecked, why wouldn't West Virginia University offer a ton of money, $15, $20, $25 million a year, to one of the 2 people who could have a lot of good PR and bring 5-star talent to the university. The first one being Nick Saban, and if we couldn't get Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher. And you can say what you want about Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. I think that bringing them back to West Virginia where they grew up or where they were born would be very, very cool. And at bare minimum, they know how to win because they have a track record. The other avenue that I think that they should have taken, and the realistic one, is to just come to grips with who we are. We're not a Power 5 school. We haven't been for a very long time, and I think it's time that we make a change. WVU made the big jump into the Big 12 in 2012, and in those 12 years, we have won 0 things. Time is definitely a social construct, but the last time that we were in the national media scheme on any sort of widespread level in football was in 2007 when we ended up losing to Pitt, costing us a championship opportunity to play Ohio State for a national championship. And the last time that we were in any sort of national media for basketball was in 2010 when we ended up making the Final Four. Now, I don't want to make anyone feel old or vulnerable or anything like that, so I'm going to do it to myself. In 2007, I was in middle school, and in 2010, when we went to the Final Four, I was a freshman in high school, and I am 30 years old now. Specifically at the college level, I think that it is about small victories more than the actual big one, because when you think about the landscape of college football and the hundreds of schools that there are for you to support, not everyone has an opportunity to win a conference title or a national championship. You have to take the small victories along the way. And I know that some of you aren't going to like this because I don't think that my dad liked it when I told him the first time either. But college sports, football and basketball specifically, are a lot more like European football than they are the professional basketball and football. I'm actually going to put a link into the description of a really talented creator on here, Michael McKelvey. He did a video not too long ago about the college atmosphere, and I want you to go check that out after you watch this video. But he helped me hone in on some of my thoughts here. Now, in European football, or soccer as we Americans call it, you are competing for multiple championships at all times. Now take Man City, for example. They are an absolute tear right now. They have won everything in sight for multiple years now, and they're always winning trophies. Of course, they play in the Premier League, so they're going to play for their English Premier League championship. They also have 2 different in-season tournaments that they compete for in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. They play for a Community Shield, which is determined by a match between the previous year's EPL winner and the FA Cup winner. They play for a Super Cup, which is decided in a match between the winners of the Europa League and the Champions League. And then, of course, the big one, the Champions League. And every so often they play for a Club World Cup. So for any given year, we're playing for 5 or 7 trophies in one year, and it doesn't take away from the success of that team. And now let's shift back to college for a second. In this example, I will be using WVU, and I will pretend like we're winning all of these games because someone needs to dream. When we play in-state rival Marshall, we compete for the Friends of Cole Bowl. When we play bordering state rival Virginia Tech, we play for the Black Diamond Trophy. Of course, we're in the Big 12, so we will compete for a Big 12 championship. For basketball, we compete for a Big 12 regular season title and then a Big 12 tournament title. And now back to football. The way that the college football playoff bracket is currently constructed, even if we have a bye in the first round, we still have to win 2 bowl games, so 2 more trophies on the way to a national championship. And then, of course, the thing that I've been dreaming about since 2001, WVU wins the National Football Championship. So in that scenario, we win 6 trophies, and in any sort of normal circumstances, we are competing for those at bare minimum. And like I said earlier, college sports is really about small victories. It's not like the NFL and the NBA where you're competing for one trophy, the Lombardi or the Larry O'Brien. Now, of course, the NBA now has the NBA Cup, which I do think is important. It's just a matter of time before there's a lot of history under it and other people start to believe that it's important. But for now, there's only one prize in each of these sports. I was 6 years old when I started watching college sports, and I did see us win some stuff. We ended up winning a Big East title in basketball. We ended up winning the Big East in football. We almost went to a national championship in football. We went to the Final Four in basketball. So there was some success. But for the entirety of my adult life, we haven't won anything. You can call me a fanboy if you want, but I believe that the people of West Virginia and the West Virginia University fans deserve to celebrate something. I put out a short form video about a week ago on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts. You may have seen it. But a lot of people were giving me flack saying that West Virginia can't grow if they're going to a Group of 5 conference, if they're going to the Sun Belt or the AAC or anything like that. And I would have to argue that the highest that we have ever been in any sort of national media attention was when we were in the Big East. And while, yes, the Big East was definitely a powerhouse in basketball back in the day, it was never a football powerhouse. I definitely think that you can compete when you're in a Group of 5 conference. I don't have any doubt about that at all. I mean, for God's sakes, Boise State is in the college football playoff, and they play in the Mountain West. And in basketball, think about how many mid-majors end up making it to the Sweet 16 just because they have a good run. Just because you're not in a Power 5 school doesn't mean that you can't compete, and it doesn't mean that you can't get eyes on the product. This next part is a little bit of wishful thinking, but I want WVU to end up in the Sun Belt because the Sun Belt hosts Marshall, and we can play for the Friends of Cole Bowl every year, and I'm moving to Georgia at the end of the year, so I could just drive up the road and watch WVU take on Georgia State whenever the time comes. But whether it's the Sun Belt or the American or Conference USA, it really doesn't matter. I think that it's time to make a change. Going to a Group of 5 conference is not a step down. It's about playing competition that makes sense. And as it stands right now, we are not a Power 5 school. So I think the least the WVU athletic director can do is think of its fans and give us an opportunity to celebrate something. But that's all I've got today. Who's your favorite college team? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, a little housekeeping. Again, I am moving at the end of the year, so this is probably going to be my last YouTube video for the year, but I will be posting on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Shorts, and make sure that you're keeping up with me on there. Also, follow me on Blue Sky. I'm definitely going to be posting on there throughout this whole moving process. I'm not going to skip anything there, so you can keep connected with me in that way. I hope you have the happiest of holidays. I hope you have a happy new year. Be kind, tell somebody you love them, and I'll see you in the next one.